When life seems crazy and it feels like you're not going to get it all done, here are 3 things I did to kind of streamline my day. The first thing was I would do block scheduling with history and science. And what I mean by that is that I would read a double reading assignment on Mondays and Wednesdays of history, and then a double reading assignment of science on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That eliminated one book that I had to figure out what page we're on, go get the book, find the page. Less opening and closing of books meant more time to get the things done. The second thing we did was we saved read alouds for bedtime. So that way it wasn't part of our school day and yet we were still getting it done. It also allowed for Dad to participate. He would often do the read aloud. Sometimes he would just sit and listen while I read aloud. And then the third thing was on those days where we had a sick child and then we needed to go to the doctor, but then we had soccer practice in the afternoon and I just knew that we weren't going to get through our regular schedule. I made sure that we did the most important things, and those are the 3 R's: reading, writing, and math. Because those are the skill-based subjects and those are things that build. So you have to kind of keep that train moving even if the other things stop for just a day or two. And then you can pick back up and maybe do a day on Saturday where you do a little extra reading to get back on track with your schedule. But the biggest thing is don't sweat it. Eventually they will learn and it'll be okay.
My tip for being flexible with the instructor's guide is to completely forget about the idea that a school week has to be Monday through Friday. It is true that each week's page in your instructor's guide does have 5 columns, but that does not mean they have to be Monday through Friday. In fact, at the very beginning of the school year, I highly recommend taking 2 days to do just 1 day of the instructor's guide, and that throws off that Monday through Friday completely at the very beginning, but that is really okay. With the guide, you simply do the next day's column, whatever day that happens to be. Sometimes people get the feeling that if they're only going to do school 4 days that week, that they still have to do all 5 columns within a week. That's not true either. You will just pick up where you left off the very next day.
One way that I like to make Sunlight flexible is to look at the read alouds and the readers. And sometimes there are read alouds that I can look at and say, okay, these are on the shorter side. I think my student can handle it, maybe an older student that's wanting more independence. And I let them read those as readers, and that gives me a little time in my schedule. There may be other books that I look at and I say, no, these are books that I want to enjoy together. I want those to be read alouds, and I keep them as read alouds, but that's flexible. There may be a book that's a reader that's on the longer side. You can take that book and maybe start the book with your student if they're a more reluctant reader and get them invested in the story, and then let them go for the rest of the book as, you know, reading it on their own. But that can make it flexible. Just So Stories I read with a LibriVox recording. And that was a great option. Some books are excellent as books for older siblings to read with younger siblings. So Charlotte's Web, The School Story, Snow Treasure. Those are some that an older sibling could read with a younger. Shadow of a Bull is a book that when we were reading this with a younger student, you could read Ferdinand the Bull. It's a picture book. So make it work for you.
Hi friends. Well, it's called an instructor's guide for a reason. It's not an instructor's mandate, and that's one of the things I love about Sunlight, that I can change it to use it how my family needs it. So a couple of ways that we've flexed is that I don't always do Bible with my kids. I don't do Sunlight's Bible because we're involved in other things for church, and I use that as our Bible curriculum and use the books and resources from Sunlight for devotionals and other things, particularly after about 6th grade. In the early years, yes, I did use it, but as they got older, I used some other things. Another way we flexed was that I often do not read poetry on the days that it's scheduled. I often save that and lump that together for another time. So I'll do a week or 2 weeks worth of poetry in one sitting. So those are just 2 of many ways that I have flexed with Sunlight.
One of the ways I made the instructor's guide work for me was during our early homeschooling years, my mother was diagnosed with cancer and I was her primary caregiver. So that meant a lot of days I was out at a doctor's appointment or having to take care of her. But having the instructor's guide with a plan allowed me to either know what was coming that day so I could plan around it, or allowed someone to come in to take care of the kids and they were able to pick right up where I was. And even as my kids got older, they knew, go to the instructor's guide and see what I can do while mom is out, because sometimes I had to leave unexpectedly. So regardless of the curveballs that life throws at you, your instructor's guide is your roadmap to get everything done. It doesn't have to be done on all the same day. That column can be broken up over multiple days. You can take a read aloud in the car and just keep reading so that you're further ahead on that. And when you get back to normal, you can work on some of those other things. It's a great road guide. It is not your boss.
Hi, I'm Jonna. I have a tip for you today. We're talking about being flexible and things that you can do. And there are so many great tips today. Mine that I felt was the funnest with my kids. We would let them on days that it was just drawing out or we did not want to do school, those days. I would put all our subjects on cards and some, our history, our read alouds, our Bible, our science, but then I would also play outside for 30 minutes, take a cookie break, watch a 30-minute TV show. And the kids got to take turns picking what they would do. I'd hold it up. They couldn't see. I would fold it better than this, but so like they might draw, read aloud, and we would go do the read aloud together. And then the next one might be, let's pull this. It's a cookie break. And I didn't dictate, oh, we haven't had lunch yet. I just did the cookie break. So it was a game to them. That was everything we had to do for the day. I did all our subjects, but it was a game. Who got to go next? Oh, we did our cookie break. Who's next? Draw the card. Let's do it. And it just made getting school into a game, even though we did everything we were supposed to. We did our Bible. We did our science. We did our math. We did our language arts. We did our handwriting, spelling, all those things we stuck in there. And when it came to math, everybody did math. And the baby, I gave them blocks to play with so that they were doing something in that same, oh, you're going to do math too. Your blocks have numbers on it, and up to the one that was doing pre-algebra. We did them all. Everybody did it. It was a little chaotic, but it was fun. And so that's just a way we start getting everything done. Maybe not in the schedule that we as moms want to do, but it was done and it was fun and they had a good time.
One of the things that I do at the beginning of every school year that helps keep our year more organized is that I take the book list out of the IG and I cross-reference it with my audiobook app. I have an app that's through my public library. You may have another audio app. It'll work with anybody's. And I mark which books we could listen to. We don't listen to every book that we could possibly listen to because I love to read with my kids, but when life happens, when mom gets sick, if we have to be out of town, or if something else urgently needs my attention, we can still be productive because I know which books I can pull up on the app and we can listen to a read aloud instead of having to wait until I am available to read it.
One of my favorite ways to stay organized, yet in a flexible way, is to put my instructor's guide pages in clear page protectors. So what I do each week is I move that current week into my working binder, which is just a smaller binder that I carry around with me to do school with the kids. But I have all the pages in page protectors. Then I use a wet erase marker to write on it. So the advantage to wet erase is that anything that's dried, like my notes that are already here, they're not going to come off when I rub my hand over that. But when I am ready to take this off, all I have to use is plain water and I can wipe the entire page clean and get it ready for the next week. So I just come in with a marker and I'll draw an X or a check mark or a circle or some other way to indicate what I'm doing. I'll write notes down here. I can mark all over this page. But then at the end of the week, when I return this page back to the main IG, I can pull it out and it's totally clean. So if you want to reuse your instructor's guide with younger children, that's a great option for you. Then I just hit these pages with water to wipe them completely clean, and I'm ready for the next week.